How's it going, guys and goddesses? This is the Akah. Back at you, man. Yeah, so you know they're trying to gaslight you on this Epstein hybridization, child sacrifice ring that they have, sex slavery, and all you have to do is just look at genetic studies and ask yourself why the majority of leaders on planet Earth have Rh negative blood type. If you look into Rh negative blood type, the blue bloods, that all ties back to those people with elongated heads. See, this all goes back to ancient science. The hybridization of humanity, Adam and Eve. God created Adam and Eve, and their descendants are the Jews. And see, the question that people don't ask, we talking about Jews and whatnot. The question you need to ask yourself: how did Jews, who are God's chosen people, by the way, God's chosen ones, how did they end up being 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And see, they'll try to gaslight you and tell you that Neanderthal was a human. Yeah, it was part human, but it was a human crossing with some kind of monkey, lemur. And see, when you study genetics, the tree of humanity, Raj Ramsar, based on genetic studies, the Asian, the East Indian, the European, the Aboriginal are all recent. And they tie back to one tiny branch. Their DNA ties back to one tiny branch, back to a sub-Saharan African. But they'll tell you that if you talk about reptilians and human egg harvesting and child sacrifice, that you're out your rabbit ass mind, man. Okay, somebody put that Neanderthal gene in the human genome. And when you research the Neanderthal, you're going to find out a lot of Neanderthals' DNA tied back to humans. So what came first? According to them, they'll tell you the Neanderthal was here first and evolved into today's modern humans. And then they'll tell you that black Africans left Africa 100,000 years ago, walked into Europe and made it with Neanderthals and created the white race, which is fucking asinine. See, they gaslight you and everything, man. And then they'll tell you that the rhesus monkey, which is Rh positive, is proof that humans evolved from a fucking monkey. No, that's just proof that that monkey was genetically engineered from human genetic. So this hybridization program, trying to write off Credo Mutwa, trying to write off these people talking about shape-shifting reptilians and all that kind of shit. It's too much evidence. And this Epstein, some of the victims are saying that he shape-shifted. Trump shape-shifting, so they're doing everything they can to gaslight you and cover this up. They say that Jeffrey Epstein was sex trafficking minors. The question is, who was he sex trafficking these minors to? Who was he pimping these minors to? Who are these Johns? See, they're covering that up, man. So the gaslighting, man, we're going to break this down. Okay, it tells you right here. I typed in, are Jews part Neanderthal? Most individuals of non-African descent, including Jewish people, carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their genomes, typically ranging from 1 to 4%. This is due, see, here they gaslighting. This is due to interbreeding between early modern humans and Neanderthals that occurred thousands of years ago, likely after modern humans migrated out of Africa. See, more bullshit. But it tells you right there. Most individuals of non-African descent, including Jewish people, carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA. Now, if Yahweh, God of the Old Testament, is the God of the universe, as they spew all that bullshit, if he created man in his own image, as they say, in his image or whatnot. I can see they twisted the Bible around, because see, in the Bible, the real Bible, in the real Bible, the Hebrew Bible discussed the Elohim. And Elohim doesn't mean one God. It means multiple gods. And if you read the original Bible, it says the Elohim said, let us make man in our image, indicating that there was more than just one God. But let's get back to what they tell you, the bullshit that they spew. If the Jews are God's chosen people, and they descend from Adam and Eve was in this Garden of Eden, and God created Adam and Eve, and created Eve from the rib of Adam. That, who is this God? And why is the people that he created 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And how did they get Neanderthal genes if Neanderthals died off before the creation of Adam and Eve? Because they'll tell you that Neanderthals existed thousands of years before humans. So if that's the case, then how did these humans end up with Neanderthal DNA at only 2 to 5%? So let's walk through their bullshit. See, they'll tell you right here. This is due to interbreeding between early modern humans and Neanderthals that occurred thousands of years ago. Let's walk through the math on this. If a black person made it with a white person, the offspring would be half white, half black. Do we agree with that? Does anybody want to disagree with that? If you disagree with that notion, please explain why in the comments. So it goes, you do the math, if a black African left Africa and made it with a Neanderthal, wouldn't the offspring be half Neanderthal, half black African? But according to this bullshit, Neanderthal, okay, this is due to interbreeding between early modern humans and Neanderthals that occurred thousands of years ago, likely after modern humans migrated out of Africa. So these black Africans left Africa, came across Neanderthals. So they can't say that humans evolved from Neanderthals. They can't say that. And if you look at a Neanderthal, it's a fucking monkey, man. We know that's a fact. It's like a Sasquatch, Bigfoot. But they'll tell you that modern humans left Africa, made it with Neanderthals. Wouldn't the offspring be half African, half Neanderthal? But they'll tell you that these black Africans left Africa, made it with Neanderthals, and produced blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people that are only 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Can someone please explain how the fuck that's possible? If anybody wants to contest this, please leave facts, back it up with facts, how you can possibly contest this shit, that this is not some bullshit. Okay? Well, let's take it back to this Yahweh who created Adam. According to the Bible, Yahweh created Adam and Eve. Eve, they were deceived by some fucking snake and all this hocus pocus fairy tale bullshit. And this God happened to create Adam and Eve that happened to be 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Because Jews are not Africans. And Adam and Eve
is the mother and father to the Jews, right? God's chosen people. Now, if Adam and Eve birthed black people, as they tell you in the Bible, you know, all these tribes, okay, you got Adam and Eve, okay, what descends from them is tribes of black people, which is fucking asinine. How come these black people are not part Neanderthal, but the white offspring are? See? Just no matter how you cut it, it's just a bunch of bullshit, man. And we're going to get into this, man, because this all ties back to Jeffrey Epstein, human trafficking, human cloning, hybridization of eggs, and who's doing this. Okay? Who are these motherfuckers with these big... See, they just sit here and try to tell you that a skull type like this is because of headbanding, when you can clearly look at these people who headbanded their heads. It doesn't look nothing like this shit. Okay? Hold on, let me take it back. Like that. You can't get a skull that big from fucking headbanding, man. So they gaslighting. Your skull doesn't get any bigger because you band head. All it does is change the shape. It doesn't change the volume of your skull. Your skull, your cranium is not going to grow to something this big because of fucking headbanding. Okay? See, you got human beings here, like these, headbanding. Okay, yeah, it altered the shape of the skull, but the skull didn't get bigger because you headbanded. All it did was mold the skull. You don't get a fucking head, hold on, like that from headbanding. But yet, the people with these fucking heads right here, DNA ties back to modern humans who just popped up on Earth just 6,500 years ago. Let's get into that. See, it tells you right here, modern Europe's genetic history starts in Stone Age. Scientists create the first detailed genetic history of modern Europe. Here you go, it tells you an article. Europeans as a people are younger than we thought, a new study suggests. DNA recovered from ancient skeletons reveals that genetic makeup of modern Europe was established around 4500 BC in the mid-Neolithic, or just 6,500 years ago. And according to the Bible, the genealogy of Adam and Eve goes back how far? 6,000, approximately 6,000 to 6,500 years ago. Ain't that a fucking coincidence? Adam and Eve came on this earth 6,500 years ago at the same time that these modern Europeans just magically popped up. So who was created in the Garden of Eden? And who is this God that created them? And why is God's chosen people to the 5% Neanderthal? And how could that possibly be? How did these people who just popped up 6,500 years ago have Neanderthal DNA when Neanderthals were said to have died out thousands of years prior to 6,500 years ago? How did these people here, whose genetic lineage showed up 6,500 years ago, how is it they are 2 to 5% Neanderthal? Where did they get the Neanderthal DNA? Didn't Neanderthals die out? Now, modern Europeans showed up in Europe 6,500 years ago. And right here, the Bible interpreted literally suggests Adam and Eve lived roughly 6,000 years ago. So those Europeans popping up 6,500 years ago, and we got Adam and Eve coming into existence 6,000 years ago. So God's creation, is it possible that we're talking about white people as being Adam and Eve? But they'll gaslight you. They'll try to gaslight you and tell you that Adam and Eve is the mother and father of all races, when genetics tell you that all human beings tie back to a sub-Saharan African woman. So it's either Adam and Eve sub-Saharan African, but that would have to have been prior to 6,000 years ago. So the Bible is talking about the creation of the white race. Yahweh's chosen people is the white race. because Adam and Eve was created 6,000 years ago, and modern Europeans showed up in Europe 6,500 years ago. So that timeline matches up. So we're talking about the creation of the white race that was created by Yahweh, God of the Old Testament. So God's chosen people is the white race. So that lines up with God enslaving black people, abducting black people, harvesting black people's eggs to create the white race. And we're going to break that down. Didn't they go extinct? Let's get in that. Okay, according to the gaslighting, Neanderthals are believed to have gone extinct approximately 40,000 years ago. Man, they really bringing that timeline down. Now it's 40,000 years ago. They said it was a million years ago at first. Then they changed that when they find out that white people have 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Then they took it back to 100,000 years. And then they said Africans left Africa 50,000 years ago, made it with Neanderthals and created blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people. And now they're saying that the Neanderthal went extinct 40,000 years ago. They're really changing that timeline, but that doesn't explain how Europeans, whose genetic lineage popped up 6,500 years ago, how did they get Neanderthal DNA if the Neanderthal went extinct 40,000 years ago? This is all gaslighting, people. See, this is hybridization. This is gene manipulation. And see, the God that created Adam and Eve, genetically engineered Adam and Eve from a Neanderthal, and these Neanderthals never died out. Because these Neanderthals are called the Bigfoot Sasquatch, and they got photos of this motherfucker that they're gaslighting on you, trying to say it doesn't exist, even though they put in a fucking Star Wars Chewbacca's a goddamn Neanderthal. It's a goddamn Sasquatch, man. Hold on. Here they go. They got footage of this Neanderthal, this ape man, walking through the fucking backwoods. And here we go. Let's get a photo of that, man. Let's get this going. There it is right there. There it is. See if I can take it back. There he goes. Hold on, it's Mr. Neanderthal. Take it back. There he is, right there. What is that? Walking like a human. Take it back. There he is, walking like a human being. They tried to say that this was a man in a monkey suit, putting the stage in the hoax. See, why it wasn't a suit. See, we know this wasn't a fucking suit. And I'm going to tell you why this wasn't a fucking suit.
So what if I told you that the biggest Bigfoot hoax in history is actually real, and that the proof of that lies in the lies of people claiming otherwise? Since 1967, the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film has been at the center of an ongoing debate regarding its authenticity.
Okay, I don't want to get too deep in this video, but they got footage of a Bigfoot walking through the fucking backwoods. Do you think that might be a Neanderthal? Do you think this Bigfoot debunks their bullshit saying that Neanderthals died out? Because see, we know, we can always look at some fuzzy photo that they claim, okay, they try to write off, this ain't real because the picture, that the video is fuzzy and shit. See, all you gotta do is look at the body ratios. The body ratios will tell you if this is legitimate or not. If the body ratios is non-human, then guess what? It's not a human. Because you can make a monkey suit, but that monkey suit still has to fit the human, so that monkey suit has to have human body ratios if it's indeed a monkey suit. But we know this is not a fucking monkey suit because humans and monkeys have two different body ratios. Okay? Hold on, let's get into that. It's a science, man. See, what are the differences in body ratios between humans and monkeys? Okay, while both humans and monkeys are primates and share some general body plan similarities, there are significant differences in their body ratios reflecting their distinct evolutionary paths and modes of locomotion. So humans and monkeys don't have the same body ratios. Let's see if we get some images on that. See, there's a human's body ratios compared to an ape's body ratios. See, the legs of an ape Okay, hold on. The legs of an ape, body ratios as opposed to the length of the arms, the head, the skull. Okay, completely different. So now we're going to get into human. We're going to type in human versus Neanderthal. Right there, human versus Neanderthal. Okay, here's the skull. There's the human. That's the Neanderthal. That's a fucking monkey, but they're trying to sit there and tell you that the Neanderthal is a human. Okay? That looks white, but that's a human skull right here. This is a human skull, and that's a fucking Neanderthal. Look at the teeth compared to a human's teeth. Look at the brow ridge. See what I'm saying? Completely different skulls. But they'll say that this is a human skull. So this is a Neanderthal, and of course they got the whole skeleton of a Neanderthal. Hold on, let's kind of look that up. See, they're going to try to gaslight you and try to say that try to compare the Neanderthal skeleton to the human skeleton, and try to say that that skeleton is primarily human, but this is more of an accurate depiction of a Neanderthal skeleton. A little bit more. Hold on, let's get to it. See, that's a little bit more accurate. Now the question is, what body ratios does this Neanderthal compare to? So let's get into that. Okay, this is Thinker Thunker. He compared the body ratios of the Bigfoot, the Neanderthal, and the human. Body ratios. Now, who do you think the Neanderthal's body ratios lined up with? Did the Neanderthal's body ratios line up with the human, or did the body ratios line up with the Bigfoot that they say it doesn't exist? Let's get into that.
Hey, this is Thinker Thugger. So which is crazier? Believing that there are humans who can just magically shrink and grow and distort their bodies in ways not even humanly possible? Or believing in Bigfoot? And I hate to tell some of you this, but it's either one or the other, unless you are just so completely oblivious. So, stick around, and I'll show you what I found. Would you say the red lines line up with the green lines?
Okay, he asked, does the red lines line up with the green lines? Hold on, let's walk back over that.
Would you say the red lines line up with the green lines?
Okay, let's get into that. Do those red lines line up with the green lines? The answer would be no. So let's continue.
It's not even close, is it? I mean, there would have to be something really wrong with you to think the two lined up. Yet, 2/3 of America would look at this and say, oh yeah, it lines up close enough for them. Or, it's just all too fuzzy and blurry, and it has to be perfect quality before they'll even bother looking at it. But for the rest of you, if you look at this for just a second, you're smart enough.
Okay, this skeleton right here in the middle is a Neanderthal. I'm going to move on because I can't expand this video, I'm going to have to move to another video. Hold on here. Okay, so I can zoom in a little better.
No,
I'm going to pull up this video.
blurry, but I can make out his shoulders and his elbow and his wrist.
Okay, let's pull that up. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is zoom in. See, that's the Bigfoot, and that's human ratio. See, you got Shaq compared to the guy who said he was in the Bigfoot monkey suit. Okay, Bob's body ratio is lined up with Shaq, and Shaq is a whole lot taller than Bob. But this tells you that humans' body ratios line up, whereas the Bigfoot, who this guy Bob said he was walking around in the backwoods in the Bigfoot suit, he's the one wearing the monkey suit. His body ratios does not line up with this Bigfoot. This monkey suit that he claims to say he wore has body ratios that are non-human. So how did Bob fit in the fucking monkey suit if the monkey suit is not lined like a human? But let's get into that, man. Hold on, let's break this down.
In his knee. And in case you don't know, Bob is the man who claimed it was he wearing the female monkey suit in the Patterson-Gimlin film. And you can see Bob's red team member lines up perfectly on the shoulder. And if their arms were being held the same, their elbows would line up. And we can see their wrists line up and their knees line up. So your next question might be, what in the world is Shaquille O'Neal doing here? Like Bob here, how did Bob cram his shoulders down into where his lungs would be?
Oh, we'll take that back. Take that back. Actually, fast forward the video.
The proof is now on you guys. I mean, this is real. Body ratios are real. They can't be faked. And so you're going to have to address this, because body ratios are going to shut down every single argument you have. You're going to have to do some videos and explain to us how Bob, or how any human's knee is going to slide down inches just because they're wearing a monkey suit, or how their hips slide down to line up, or how their elbows slide down to line up, or how they, like Bob here, how did Bob cram his shoulders down into where his lungs would be just because he was wearing this monkey suit here? I mean, it's ridiculous to believe that. So let's hear it, show us.
Here it is right there. Hold on. If I come, right there is a Neanderthal body skeleton. Do you think that Neanderthal lines up with the Bigfoot? Let's see. Shoulders perfectly line up with the Bigfoot, but it doesn't line up with the human. Okay? The hips line up with the Bigfoot's hips. Right there. But it does not line up with the human. Let's look at this Neanderthal. The wrist line up with the Sasquatch wrist. Hold on. Let's get this back right. The wrist line up with the Sasquatch wrist, but it does not line up with the human. Hold on. Right there, it does not line up with the human. Let me take this back a little bit further. Okay, let's get this going. So we get these body ratios, because they try to gaslight you and tell you that the Neanderthal was a human, when in reality, the Neanderthal is the goddamn Bigfoot. It's an ape man. And you can tell by the skull it's a goddamn ape man. But here we go. Shoulders perfectly line up with the Bigfoot. Doesn't line up with the human. See? Right there. Does not line up with the human shoulders. Okay? With the top shoulder. Okay? The elbow perfectly lines up with the Bigfoot's elbow. But the elbow does not line up with the human. The elbow comes down to where the human's wrist would be. Okay, but the human's body ratios, and Shaq is 7 foot tall, and Bob is maybe like 5'10", 5'11", a foot shorter, but their body ratios still line up as human. See, all their body ratios perfectly line up, but when it comes to the Sasquatch body ratios does not line up with humans, but it perfectly lines up with the Neanderthal. Right there, Neanderthal and Sasquatch body ratios, kneecap perfectly line up, but it does not line up with the human. Okay? Does not line with the human. See, Bob's kneecap perfectly lines up with Shaq's, but does not line up with the Sasquatch body ratios, man. But the body ratios of this Neanderthal and the Bigfoot perfectly line up, and the Neanderthal Bigfoot body ratios does not line up with a human. Bottom line, man. That's all I want to show you, man. Because I don't care how blurry the fucking picture is, you can always line the body ratios up. You can always adjust the size of the photo to line up, see if those body ratios line up. See, we're going to go back to the video, back to the beginning, excuse me.
Hey, this is Thinker Thugger. So which is crazier? Believing that there are humans who can just magically shrink and grow and distort their bodies in ways not even humanly possible? Or believing in Bigfoot? And I hate to tell some of you this, but it's either one or the other, unless you are just so completely oblivious. So, stick around, and I'll show you what I found. Would you say the red lines line up with the green lines? It's not even close, is it? I mean, there would have to be something really wrong with you to think the two lined up. Yet, 2/3 of America would look at this and say, oh yeah, it lines up close enough for them. Or, it's just all too fuzzy and blurry, and it has to be perfect quality before they'll even bother looking at it. But for the rest of you, if you look at this for just a second, you're smart enough to get what I'm trying to say here with alignment and with body ratios. So let's start with Bob first. Now, Bob is fuzzy and blurry, but I can make out his shoulders and his elbow and his wrist and his knee. And in case you don't know, Bob is the man who claimed it was he wearing the female monkey suit in the Patterson-Gimlin film. And you can see Bob's red team member lines up perfectly on the shoulder. And if their arms were being held the same, their elbows would line up. And we can see their wrists line up and their knees line up. So your next question might be, what in the world is Shaquille O'Neal doing here? Well, Shaquille is a giant to most people, so I needed someone like him to illustrate that even someone that large, once they're scaled down to Bob's size, and by the way, I've done that with everybody for comparison's sake, scaled them all to the same size, but once I scaled Shaq down, he and Bob share the exact same body ratios. So it doesn't matter what your nationality is, or what your heritage is, or male or female. Doesn't matter. We humans share the same body ratios, plus or minus small degrees. Okay, so now let's look at the green team alignment. You can see the 4 major joints here: shoulder, elbow, wrist, and knee. And you can look through here for yourselves and see how they all line up. And then you can compare those to the red team and see that they are inches. I mean, it's a complete fail on lineup, apart from ankles. So, skeptics, the burden of proof is now on you guys. I mean, this is real. Body ratios are real. They can't be faked. And so, you're going to have to address this, because body ratios are going to shut down every single argument you have. You're going to have to do some videos and explain to us how Bob, or how any human's knee is going to slide down inches just because they're wearing a monkey suit, or how their hips slide down to line up, or how their elbows slide down to line up, or how they, like Bob here, how did Bob cram his shoulders down into where his lungs would be just because he was wearing this monkey suit here? I mean, it's ridiculous to believe that. So let's hear it. Show us, don't tell us. So now you're probably wondering why I threw a Neanderthal into the mix here, when science assures us that these guys only grew to about 5 foot high, and that their DNA is only about 0.12% different from ours. And, I would remind you that scientists are still just humans, and we humans make mistakes, whether we'll admit them or not. So it's kind of, who are you going to believe? Science or your lying eyes? Because, look, it lines up on all 4 major joints. So am I saying that Bigfoot is Neanderthal? No, I can't, because I can't prove that. But if the shoe or the skeleton fits, wear it,
And see, this Neanderthal perfectly lines up with Bigfoot. Skull looks like a goddamn ape. So the question is, how did this ape, human hybrid DNA, end up in modern Europeans that just popped up 65 fucking 100 years ago, if Neanderthals died out and this Bigfoot is fucking fake, according to what they say? But yeah, when you look at the Neanderthal compared to the Bigfoot that they say doesn't exist, when you compare the body ratios, they perfectly align, which tells you that yes, Neanderthal is Bigfoot and Bigfoot is Neanderthal. Neanderthals never died out because Bigfoot is a fucking modern day Neanderthal that they got videos of, whose body ratios perfectly line up with a Neanderthal. So the question is, how did this ape, like human, called a Neanderthal, how did its DNA end up in modern Europeans, modern humans outside of sub-Saharan Africans? How did that happen? Okay, if hybridization doesn't exist, who created these? Who created Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve, the ancestors of the Jewish people. How did Jews end up 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And you can see Neanderthal looks like a damn Bigfoot. So how did Jews get the DNA of a Bigfoot? If God of the Old Testament is their creator and these Jews are their chosen people. So that begs the question, who was God of the Old Testament? Who was Yahweh? Okay. Yahweh is a fucking demon. Plain and simple. He's the one to put the Neanderthal DNA in your genetic profile. He's the one that created you. He's the one to create the Hysos that invaded Kemet. Okay. There was a war in Kemet, and yes, Yahweh was part of Kemet because Yahweh in reality is Osiris. Comes from the energy of Osiris. He's a child of Osiris. See, that's why Constantine, Ptolemy, when they invaded Kemet, that's why they took Osiris and created Serapis, who is the Christ, who looks exactly like Jesus. All right? Says right here, Serapis Christus is a term that some use to suggest a connection between the Greco-Egyptian god Serapis and Jesus Christ, because they're the same motherfucker, implying that the story of Jesus was derived from an earlier figure. However, there is no valid historical manuscript based, of course, again, gaslighting you. Same motherfuckers that tell you that this is a Neanderthal, looks like a human. This is their depiction of Neanderthal. Right there. That's what they try to tell you Neanderthal look like. This is what had the body ratios of the Bigfoot. This dude, this is the depiction of Neanderthal. When you go Neanderthal skull, Neanderthal versus human skull, hold on. Let's go images. Right there. That's a human skull, that's a Neanderthal skull, but this right here is a human. Even though this Neanderthal's body ratios perfectly align with the Bigfoot and it has monkey-like features like the damn Bigfoot. But this doesn't look like, this isn't a monkey man, no. This is what that monkey man looks like. Him. Narrow nose. Human-like brow ridge. See, this is all gaslighting, man. See? All gaslighting, man. See? And they're gaslighting you with Serapis Christus because we go to images. They're trying to say that there's no evidence that this Serapis isn't Jesus. And that looks exactly like Jesus because, see, Serapis later became Zeus to the Greeks. See, this later became Zeus to the Greek, the lightning bolt god that the Greeks worship. The Greeks are the one that took the Hebrew Bible, translated into Greek. And then you got the Romans translating who took Serapis, who became Zeus, to later become Jupiter. And keep in mind, the letter J did not come into the alphabet till the year 1524. So Jesus couldn't have existed the name Jesus couldn't have been in existence at the time they say Jesus actually existed, because Jesus never existed, because Jesus in reality is Serapis. Serapis later became Zeus, and the Romans turned him into Jupiter. And what King James did, after the letter J was created, he took Jupiter, J, combined it with Zeus, and then created your Jesus, which in Greek would be Iesus, And they're gaslighting on you on that because Iesus, they try to tell you that Iesus doesn't mean Hell Zeus, when we know it means Hell Zeus. Okay? They also try to lie and tell you that Jesus and Yeshua, yes, Jesus is Yeshua. Okay? And Iesus, let's go. So we'll go Iesus. You can always catch them in their lies, man. See, Iesus, Hell Zeus, Jesus, Hell Zeus. See, we already know what that means, man. But they're right there. Iesus means Hell Zeus. And so you got this white dude that debated Billy Carson, who cut Billy Carson to pieces, man. But anyway, Iesus is the Greek transliteration of the Hebrew name Yeshua. See? Iesus is also supposed to mean Jesus. See? Look, Iesus Jesus. Iesus is the Greek name for Jesus. So you got Iesus means Jesus, but it also means it also means Yeshua, according to what these motherfuckers are telling you. But Yeshua actually translates to Joshua, not Jesus. See, watch. Yeshua, hold on, let's get this. Yes, Yeshua is the Hebrew name that's translated to Joshua. So which one is it, motherfuckers? Is Yeshua Joshua or is it Jesus? See, that's how they get you, man. See, Iesus translates his name Yeshua, but they also say Iesus is Jesus. See, they tell you right here. Yeah, Iesus is the Greek name for Jesus. It's the Greek name for Jesus, and it's the Greek name for Yeshua. Greek translate the Hebrew name Yeshua. So Iesus means Jesus and Yeshua, but Yeshua means Joshua, not Jesus. See how they gaslight you, man? See? So if they're gaslighting on this shit, they're gaslighting on the story of Adam and Eve, because Jews are part Neanderthal. They're gaslighting you on the hybridization. They're gaslighting you on this Neanderthal, trying to make you think that it looks like a human, when in reality it looks like a fucking Bigfoot. They're just gaslighting you because they're trying to cover up all this human hybrid bullshit that they've been doing for thousands and thousands of years. So, of course, any Epstein victim that comes out and says, oh, I saw Jeffrey Epstein shapeshift into a fucking reptilian, and they're harvesting eggs in these underground laboratories. They got these gray aliens walking around. Even they say that's crazy, even though they try to say gray aliens is crazy, even though they got the fucking skulls, man. There you go, man. Elongated heads, man. Got elongated skulls, and then when I put pharaohs, okay, there they go. Gray alien heads, man. They got statues of this shit. Right there. But they'll sit here and say that this is some bullshit. They'll say that that's bullshit, even though Credo Mutwa described it to perfection. As you saw in the last video, man. So yeah, man, you know, and Credo Mutwa said that this is a reptilian human hybrid. Artificial intelligence controlled. And this is what they want to do to your ass. Which is why they come up with this Neuralink. Elon Musk. That's why Klaus Schwab talking about he want to put implants in motherfuckers, track you. Because the motherfuckers that created them are the ones that run this world, man. Okay? They're the ones behind the human child sacrifice. They're the ones behind the child trafficking. It's all these elites. These are the Johns that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking minors to. But they want to say all these women that Jeffrey Epstein was sex trafficking, he was the only one sleeping with them. And Trump, oh, this is all a bunch of fucking fake ass news. But you see Trump's hand morphing, feet swollen up. And I know all about that feet swollen up because I personally had to go through an exorcism of myself being invaded by a fucking demon. I know exactly how this shit goes, man. So they're gaslighting you on the history of Earth. You know, they feed you all this biblical bullshit, which leads into that goofy ass motherfucker Billy Carson. It was nothing but a government plan. As a matter of fact, most of these YouTube influencers are nothing but deep state government plants here to gaslight you and disillusion you. And there's no question Billy Carson is one of them. And you know Billy Carson he's a fake because he let that whack Wes Huff destroy him in the debate. When all Billy Carson had to do, you want to kill Wes Huff, man? It's real simple, man. Ask Wes Huff, Mr. Huff and Puff, Wes Huff, because I would have destroyed that dude in the debate. Ask Wes Huff, if the Bible is true, why are Jews, who are God's chosen people, 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And then explain this simple shit. Hold on. Tells you right here, according to the Bible, Adam and Eve are the first humans from whom all people are descended. All people. So that according to the Bible, the black African descends from Adam and Eve. Black people come from Adam and Eve, according to the Bible. See, I would have killed Wes Huff, Mr. Huff and Buff. And why Billy Carson couldn't figure this shit out? Because he ain't all that bright. He's a fake. He's a government plant. But the simple thing I would ask Wes Huff, if black people descend from Adam and Eve, why is it that black people have no Neanderthal DNA, whereas everybody else is part Neanderthal? And if Wes Huff wants to sit here and come up with his bullshit, because he's a fraud, he won't come up with his bullshit, we'll just get a geneticist and let you take a DNA test, Mr. Wes Huff, and let's find out whether or not you are part Neanderthal. And see, he'll be buck dancing, backtracking, because Wes Huff is he's a Bible tard, man. And Mr. Huff, you would have to come up with some evidence, pull out your little Bible, that little fake book, copied by Constantine, stolen from Hebrews, and Hebrews stole from the Sumerians, who stole from earlier civilizations, which lead back to Africans. Where did the Neanderthal come from? Did Neanderthals exist, Mr. Wes Huff? And why is it Neanderthals have human DNA? See, simple questions, man. And he'll be dancing, buck dancing, and trying to debunk Neanderthal DNA and all of that. You know what I'm saying? But the geneticists tell you what the fuck's up, man. All right? But it tells you right here, genetic research indicates that Jewish populations, particularly those outside of Africa, do carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA in their genome. Now, if these Jews are God's chosen people, how the hell did they end up being 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And how the hell is it? See, genetic research indicates that that Jewish populations, particularly those outside of Africa, so populations within Africa, have no Neanderthal DNA, but the Bible would tell you that all people, including Africans, descend from Adam and Eve. So why is it black people are not part Neanderthal, whereas Jewish people, who are God's chosen people, why are they part Neanderthal? If we all descend from Adam and Eve. See? And see, I'll just pull up, and Wes Huff got to say anything about that, I'll just pull up the geneticist and see him buck dance and try to tap dance around the facts. Hold on here. Now see, all Billy Carson had to do was pull out the DNA, the genetics, and that tells the truth about what's really the real deal. And that this crap that they promote in the Bible interpreted literally suggests Adam and Eve lived roughly 6,000 years ago. However, this is based on specific interpretations of biblical genealogies, and other interpretations exist, placing them much further back in time, potentially tens or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. I don't know how that's possible, because they give you the age of Adam and Eve to Methuselah to Abraham. They tell you how old they live. So some scientists and religious scholars argue that Adam and Eve were the first modern humans, placing them around 200,000 years ago, based on fossil records. So if that's the case, if that's Adam and Eve, that skull that they found is 200,000 years old was found in Africa. And the Bible clearly states that Adam and Eve were created in the Garden of Eden. And let's get into that. And see, it tells you right here, the location of the Garden of Eden is not definitively known, but the book of Genesis describes it as the source of 4 rivers, the Tigris, Euphrates. What is this? Pishon and Gihon. Many scholars place it in the Middle East, specifically near the Tigris and Euphrates River. But let's find out where the oldest skull was found. Okay? Okay, according to this, the oldest fossils of Homo sapiens were discovered at Jebel Irhoud, Morocco. These fossils, including skull and bone fragments from at least 5 individuals, are dated to approximately 300,000 years ago, according to this. Okay? And Morocco is right here in Africa, in North Africa. And right in this area is where they say they found the oldest skulls dating back 300,000 years. It's right there on the African continent, not exactly the Middle East. According to the Bible, where Adam and Eve were supposed to be located was Adam and Eve, was the Garden of Eden in Morocco. Because we already know, prior to the Sahara Desert becoming a desert, it was sub-Saharan Africans that occupied all of North Africa. So, you know, that's a long distance from the Tigris Euphrates. Hold on. And according to this, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers are located in the Middle East, primarily in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. Okay? So they're saying that's where Adam and Eve was created. But the oldest skulls are found all the way in Morocco. So there you go, man. You know, it's all bullshit, man. And Adam and Eve's, according to the genealogy of how old the Bible states, Adam and Eve only go back 6,000 years. But if Adam and Eve was right here in the Tigris Euphrates River, then we're talking about, and Europeans just magically popped up in Europe about 6,500 years ago, then we're talking about the creation of the white man 6,000 years ago. All right. Adam and Eve were Caucasians. All right. And those are God's chosen people. See, they tell you right here, Genesis 5, Adam's descendants from Seth to Noah with their ages at the fourth of their first sons and their ages at death. Adam's age at death is given as 930 years. Okay? Let's break that down. Okay, Jesus was said to have lived about 2,000 years ago. And according to common biblical interpretations, approximately 4,000 years passed between the creation of Adam and the birth of Jesus. So we're talking about the creation of the white race, who is 2 to 5% Neanderthal. So I'm assuming Adam is 2 to 5% Neanderthal 6,000 years ago, when modern Europeans popped up on the planet in Europe. They claim 6,500, so we got a 500-year differentiation between modern Europeans showing up in Europe, popping up in Europe, and the creation of Adam, which was 6,000 years ago, approximately. Okay, according to common biblical interpretations, approximately. See, they're making approximation 4,000 years passed between the creation of Adam and the birth of Jesus. This is often calculated using the genealogies found in the Bible, specifically in Genesis 5 and 11, which detail the lineage from Adam to Abraham, and then considering the time from Abraham to Jesus. And Jesus was 2,000 years ago, a little over 2,000 years ago, so we're getting in the neighborhood of 6,000 to 6,500 years ago. Adam was created, which lines up when modern humans popped up in Europe, according to National Geographic. That was 6,500 years ago. And we're talking about the creation of the white race. So the Bible has really nothing to do with black people. So, based on science, based on the evidence, and we're going to get into that evidence because this is all about the DNA and all about genealogy. And see, we got people like Candace Owens, who I would love to debate. Love to debate her, man. Because I could destroy her in like a snap of the finger on a lot of the crap she spews. But, a lot of these people are just government agents, man. We're going to get into the origins of humanity.
Redeem Google Play points and score limited edition.
Okay, we're going to get into the DNA of every human alive on planet Earth. We're going to get to the bottom of this and how easy it is to debunk the Bible and why Billy Carson didn't use any of this against that goofy ass Wes Huff. Hold on, let's get into that, man. And here's this retarded debate between Billy Carson and Wes Huff.
I was taught it growing up. I was taught it in when I was a child, when I went to seminary, when I went to Bible college. I was taught it in graduate school. I would say I would say a few things to that. I would say, in one sense, it's irrelevant what the majority of Christians believe, because what historical biblical Christianity articulates is what they should believe. There are Christians who run around saying all sorts of things that are not in conformity to biblical, historical, Orthodox Christianity. And they shouldn't believe.
Wes Huff, what race was Adam and Eve? And if all human beings on earth come from Adam and Eve, why are black Africans? How come black Africans, sub-Saharan Africans who spawn from Adam and Eve, how come they don't have Neanderthal DNA, whereas Caucasians who spawn from Adam and Eve are 2 to 5% Neanderthal? Asians who span from Adam and Eve are 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Aboriginals who spawn from Adam and Eve are Denisovan and Neanderthal. East Indians, who according to the Bible spawn from Adam and Eve, are part Neanderthal. So why is it sub-Saharan Africans are not part Neanderthal? Mr. Wes Huff and goofy ass Billy Carson over here, how come you didn't ask Wes Huff those questions? What does the Bible say about Neanderthal DNA being in the human genome? And who created the Neanderthal, Mr. Wes Huff? See, this is how you destroy dumbasses, Bible tards. I mean, see, Billy Carson's just trash, man. But here we go.
That because it's irrelevant. And so if one Christian believes something that is not in line with biblical Christianity, I mean, that's on them. So God is not gendered, but he does express through inspired scripture the masculine the masculine pronoun.
That's pretty convenient. I mean, for an all-knowing, all-loving God to understand that human beings are going to take that and abuse it to put their boot on the neck of women for eons. It's pretty interesting. Also, I'm trying to...
Yo, Billy Carson. Ask Wes Huff about the Neanderthal DNA. Ask Wes Huff about how old is Adam and Eve? How far back does Adam and Eve go? When did they come on earth? And then ask Wes Huff, how is it some humans that spawn from Adam and Eve have no Neanderthal DNA, whereas other humans that spawn from Adam and Eve have Neanderthal DNA? How did Neanderthal DNA get into the human genome? And then, Billy Carson, all you do is bring out the genetics. And you would destroy Wes Huff, man. How come you didn't do that, man? How did you let this retarded-ass Bible tard destroy you in a debate? He practically ended your career. And why are you even referencing the Bible to begin with, Billy Carson? You called yourself a foreknown expert of the Bible. But you have no common sense, man. Because the Bible doesn't mention the Neanderthal. The Bible doesn't mention how Neanderthal DNA got into the human genome. And if it was 6,000 years ago, the Bible is discussing the creation of the white race. So all you got to do is bring up, you had Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. Cain knocks off Abel. How did Cain get a wife? Who was Cain's wife? If it was just Adam, Eve, and Cain. How did Cain get a wife? Did Cain marry his mother Eve? I mean, these are the type of questions that you ask a Bible tard like Wes Huff. Okay, we're going to get into the genetics.
And the minute differences in their DNA provide clues about the ancient migrations that led our species to colonize the world.
So this is Raj Ramsar, geneticist. He's going to break down where humanity begins. Okay, here we go.
Again, folks, for coming. This is the tree of humanity. Okay, in terms.
Geneticist Raj Ramsar has used these differences to help build a global family tree by tracing genes down the female line.
So they trace genes down the female line. This is the mitochondrial DNA. Okay. Now, the way this is looking, they're tracing the mitochondrial DNA of everybody on the planet. And everybody ties back to a sub-Saharan black African woman. What does the patriarchal DNA trace back to? Somewhere down the line, that ape man, that Neanderthal, has to be in the patriarchal lineage. So that means somehow they crossed a Neanderthal with a sub-Saharan African woman to give birth to mankind that is 2 to 5% Neanderthal. But anyway, let's go.
Our modern genes are the branches of the tree, and geneticists have followed them back in time to find our ancient roots. The DNA of everyone alive today fits somewhere on this tree.
The DNA of everyone alive, that includes God's chosen people, the Jews, fits somewhere on this tree. See, these are the type of things you bring up to a Bible tard like Wes Huff, Billy Carson, which tells me you're not all that smart, bro. And don't get me started with you, bruh, Billy Carson, because if I ever get in a debate with you, you think Wes Huff, who's just nothing but a Bible tart, could destroy, I would just destroy you, man. But anyway, let's get into this, man. This is why you don't listen to the Billy Charlatan, man. He's just a money grubber, man. All right? He's just sucking people out their money, man. But anyway, let's get into this.
Although it's not always obvious exactly where you fit.
So, Stephen, what about you? Where do you think your maternal heritage stems from?
Probably Southern Europe. Just the Italian community. That's where my family comes from.
Well, actually, you are on a European branch, but you're on a European branch up here. And that's much more Northern Europe. So I'm very sorry, Stephen, you're not Italian, you're a Laplander.
But follow the branches back to the beginning, and the tree reveals that ultimately we all have our roots in the same place.
There's no question from the genetic data that is generated on the people here, as well as other studies that have been done, that humanity arose in Africa. And that's what
Humanity arose in Africa. That's a long ways from Tigris and Euphrates. Humanity arose in Africa. Is the Tigris Euphrates River in Africa? Huh? All you Bible tards out there? The answer would be no. So let's get into this.
the depth of this thick trunk illustrates where the majority of humanity can look for its roots.
So because we originated in Africa, there's been more time for branches to develop here than there has been anywhere else.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. Humanity has spent most of its life in Africa. I'm African.
Yeah, you're African. Humanity has spent most of its life in Africa. So let's go back to the Bible. Okay, I'm going to type in. Let me see. Let's take this back. Did black people hold on, let's get this right. Come from Adam and Eve? Is it that? Yes. There it is right there. Yes, according to the Bible, black people, like all humans, are descendants of Adam and Eve. 6,000 years ago. That's when black people came on earth, even though the oldest skulls that they dug up are dated to be 200,000 to 300,000 years ago in Morocco. And those skulls had to have been black people. So is Adam and Eve black? Were they created in the Garden of Eden? So if Adam and Eve is black, then where did the Jews come from? Where did these people with Rh negative blood, where did they come from? The people with the elongated heads, the elongated skulls, where did they come from? See? Hold on. These people here, where did they come from? And how did people with these type of heads birth people that have a regular modern human skull? How do you go from this skull to a regular modern human skull? And if black people come from Adam and Eve, according to this article here, why is it black people have no Neanderthal DNA, whereas everybody else has Neanderthal DNA? See, these are the type of questions I would ask Wes Huff. See, how do you get white people from black people, man? See, these are the type of questions I would ask Wes Huff. How do you get Chinese people from black people? How did that happen, man? What happened? Two black people got together, had sex, had a baby, and the baby was blonde hair, blue eyed. And don't tell me nothing about no albinos. Because, yeah, black people can have albino, but that albino is still going to have kinky hair, full lips, and you can mate an albino with an African, or you can make two albinos and the kids can be black. So let's kind of get into that. And here it is right here. Right there. Let me look at this guy right here. She's albinos. She's an albino. And the question was asked, can two parents with albinism have an unaffected child? Yes. It's certainly possible for two people with albinism to have unaffected children. You see, you have two albino parents with white skin, and they can have black babies. Now, can two white people give birth to black babies? The answer is no. Okay? So how did that happen, man? See? How did that happen? Where did all these facial features come from? How did Chinese get slanted eyes? Where do these features come from, man? If everybody comes from Adam and Eve. See, just type in Chinese. Where did these features come from? How did Adam and Eve produce these features? Produce people look like this. Let's go African. And people that look like this. How did Adam and Eve birth people with completely different facial features? See? And how do all these different people, okay, see, according to Raj Ramsar, everybody's DNA tied back to a sub-Saharan African. So how did this black woman produce a Chinese, a Caucasian, an East Indian? How did that happen? If there's no hybridization, no stealing of women's eggs, no abduction. Because the reality of the situation is Yahweh is a goddamn dictator, man. A fucking reptilian that came down here and abducted black women. These motherfuckers right here. As Cradle Mutwa told you. And see, these are hybridized humans. It's obviously a human crossed with an octopus. Octopuses have blue blood. Blue bloods are the ruling elites of Europe. So you're looking at the ruling elites of Europe's ancestor. This pumpkin-headed, octopus-headed hybrid human. Okay? It doesn't come from another planet. This damn thing, these skinny Bob Grays come from right here from Earth, according to Cradle Mutwa. Okay? Let's get it. He got a head like an octopus. Let's get into it. What do octopus? Hold on, let's type this up. Do octopus have blue blood? The blue color is due to protein called hemocyanin, which contains copper. And Cradle Mutwa says that these gray aliens smell like copper. Okay, in humans and other mammals, the blood protein is hemoglobin, which contains iron. Okay, why octopus blood is blue. Okay, see, now you know where the royal elites get their blue blood from. Okay, they get it from this copper-smelling octopus-headed hybrid human. This is their ancestor. This is the ancestor of the blue bloods. Okay? These are the motherfuckers going around there rummaging, playing with Cradle Mutwa's penis, sticking cables up his penis to suck his sperm out of his body. And these are the people that abduct women and harvest their eggs. So their masters, the reptilians, can have blood, adrenochrome to drink. They torture the children by harvesting children. Okay? So that's what that is. Let's get back into Raj Ramsar, man.
us, my cousin. We all are.
Absolutely. It's only more recently that we see this aspect of the tree.
But the really amazing thing is what the tree
He said recently, that aspect of the tree. Let's see who came recently.
tells us about those who left Africa.
Hold on, let's move up into this. Okay, we got Europe, Eurasia, and Asia.
You might expect
that came recently. Okay, go ahead.
lots of branches, lots of genetic lineages, leaving Africa at different times.
Europe,
but
Eurasia.
instead, the rest of the world connects back to Africa through one thin branch. What does that mean?
That means hybridization. That means you people were created, and your creator is Yahweh, God of the Old Testament. And this also tells you that Yahweh did not create black people. Yahweh is an invader that came here, abducted black women, stole their eggs, and created the white race, the Chinese, the Aboriginal, the Sasquatch, the Homo erectus, through hybridization, crossing human genetics with monkeys, dogs, animals. And we know this to be true. Let's get into this. So we know this all to be true. Let's get into that. Take it back. See, Billy Carson, this is how you take down Wes Huff. This is how you beat that Bible tard and kick him in his ass. Ask him, why are these people walking like... Ask Wes Huff, why are these people walking like chimpanzees? And what does the Bible have to say about that? Look at me, walking like a chimpanzee. Now let's do a comparative analysis.
That's typical chimp. Look who's up here. Look, who's up there? Who's that guy?
As Oliver reached sexual maturity, it wasn't simply being house-trained that singled him out from the other chimps. He'd begun to develop an interest in Janet Berger.
You know, I always thought he was a cross between a human and a chimp. I did. The way he acted, I've been around chimps all my life, and he was altogether different. And his problem was, when he was 16, then he wanted to make love to women, you know? He'd get a hold of you, couldn't get away from it. I'd ought to help Frank. He didn't bite or nothing, just gonna hug me and kiss me and whatever, you know.
Oliver was becoming a real problem. Janet started looking for someone who could take him off her hands.
Don't put your face on it. Don't lick it.
Professional pianist Vincent Pace was a friend of the Bergers and had known Oliver for years. He was aware that Oliver's sexual advances towards Janet were becoming serious and that something had to be done.
She went in this particular day and he became aggressive, and he turned her around quickly, put her head down, bent her over, and he mounted her.
It was the last straw for Janet. Vincent Pace considered buying Oliver and invited his mother along.
So you got this chimpanzee behaving like a human. Your RH positive rhesus monkey. Do you think these chimpanzees might have been crossed with human genetic? Do you think that's a possibility? Well, looking at this, there's no question. There's no question about it. Chimpanzees are part human, and these humans are part chimpanzee.
عادي خليجي خليه يوقف لي هسه ويمشي. اوقف تعال نمشي.
See, this is all Billy Carson had to do. Present this to Wes Huff. Huff and Puff. Huff and Puff. Hey, Wes Huff. Huff and Puff. Wes Huff. Why am I seeing this, Mr. Wes Huff? Mr. Wes Huff. Huff and Puff. Huff and Puff. Wes Huff. Why am I seeing this? And where in the Bible can I read about this? See, boy, 20 years old. Mr. Wes Huff, Huff and Puff, Wes Huff. What is this about Wes Huff? There's this guy wagging his tail. Do you think they were harvesting eggs? Do you think that they're harvesting humans? Do you think they are hybridizing humans? Mr. Wes Huff, Huff and Puff, Wes Huff. Where can I read about this in the Bible, man? And Billy Carson? How come you didn't just present this simple ass shit and just shut this goofy ass Wes Huff down, man? Wes Huff, one question, bro. One question to Mr. Wes Huff and Puff. Huff and Puff, Wes Huff. Mr. Wes Huff, why are you 2 to 5% Neanderthal? Would you like to break that down? Can you pull out that Bible of yours, and show me the scripture discussing how you became 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And Mr. Billy Carson, that's all you had to do, man. Just bring that up, and goofy ass Wes Huff would have been shut down. Just like that. But you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. We shall continue. So when you hear Epstein survivor, like this lady right here, Juliet Bryant, when she talks about human harvesting, see, it's not so crazy. But let's get into her testimony.
Bryant, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Owen. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you to everyone for listening and for caring. It's been very frightening, everything that's been going on. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein 22 years ago. I met him when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. They staged a modeling casting, and I was taken to New York to model, but then quickly kidnapped to the island. It's been very, very frightening. You know, obviously I've been in trauma through most of my life after what happened. As we all know, they're covering a lot up. And, you know, I've just been terribly upset, obviously, as everyone has, because they promised us the Epstein list. You know, Trump gained presidency promising the list. And where is the list? Now they say there is no list. How dare they lie to people like this? It's not right. And it doesn't just affect the victims, it affects the public. This has affected all of us. out recently, I saw him shapeshift into something else in front of my eyes. You know, it looked like a sort of reptilian creature. Like when I was in the bedroom, when you took me there, and what I'm starting to realize is it was probably like an alien creature. And it's hard talking about this because a lot of people think it's crazy. And I would also think it was crazy. But unfortunately, I saw it. And
it's not crazy at all, considering the fact that the majority of your world leaders are Rh negative. Let's get into that Rh negative blood, shall we? Do you might think that the origins of Rh negative blood might have something to do with this pumpkin-headed, octopus-headed human hybrid right here? Rummaging through Credo Mutwa's legs, running tubes up his penis to suck out the sperm and all that harvesting of eggs? Do you think this creature might be the source of Rh negative? Well, let's get into that. Okay, it says certain invertebrates, like some arthropods and mollusks. What's an arthropod? It's with carbon-based blood, utilizing protein. Okay, vertebrates. Okay. Copper-based blood. In animal king. Blood comes in, see what they're talking about here. It's an octopus, big ass octopus head. Society elites aren't the only blue bloods. Several species of octopus have blue rather than red fluid running through their veins. The blue comes from a copper-rich protein called hemocyanin, which carries oxygen from the lungs to the bloodstream and then to the cells of the octopus body. And of course, this big ass octopus head, okay, is similar. Okay, examples, okay, there we go. This protein contains copper, which binds to oxygen, causing the blood to appear blue. When oxygenated, examples include squid, octopuses, horseshoe crabs, lobsters, snails, and spiders. So octopus has copper-based blood. Hold on here. Okay, it tells you right here, royalties.net, copper or silver in the blood. In medical terms, it's believed that excess copper in the blood can cause the blood to turn blue. Given that regional diets may have included varying degrees of certain minerals, it's possible that some remote lineages could have been characterized by blood that was bluer than the norm. If these family lines were related to a degree of nobility or esteemed heritage, it's possible that the term blue blood could have been a literal reference to their unusual blood color. Do you think that copper blood might have come from that fucking octopus? Let's get into this Rh negative blood type.
Do those with Rh negative blood descend from the giants? Are they hybrids?
I think there's a good case that they are descended from the giants and in a bloodline. So like the Windsors are O negative, for example. Most of the presidents are negative bloodline. And that goes back to the Plantagenet, King John, and the Plantagenet is a junior offshoot of the Anjou. And so the problem, though, is Rh negative has been added, so to speak, into the mix of human blood, which in this case, by inference, would be Rh positive. So the definition of Rh negative is you're missing the D antigen. So you can't add something that's not there. But that's disinformation or partial information. So it's not the bloodline, it's the gene. And so the gens of the Plantagenet is the Plantagenista, the Plantagens. And just as the Elven gens is the fairy gens or the gene of Isis, or getting down to specific bloodlines, you're into the Elby gens of the North and England, and you have like the Julia gens of the black nobility of Italy that goes back to Ares
who is the father of Romulus and Remus, Zeus and the Herculides Gyges kings. That's the Cretazens from the word Crete, where Zeus spent a lot of time. It's the gene that passes on the ability to produce the blood type. That's what's added, is the gene. And it's thought to pass through the matriarchal bloodline, which is why the gene of Isis, which is the queen of heaven, female, which is the fairy gens, as in a fairy queen, female, and the elven bloodline of the Tuatha Danann is same as fairies, elf, and jointly coming from an occult source, and the Alaphim, which are the dukes, plural, or Alaph, singular.
As you can see, the majority of these leaders around the world are Rh negative. And that is definitely, from what I gather, a reptilian blood type based on those skinny Bob Grays.
Of Edom.
Let's walk over this octopus-headed humanoid. Octopuses have blue blood. They have copper-rich blood. They have, do you think the skinny Bob Gray is Rh negative? Do you think his blood type is Rh negative? We're going to continue on that. Okay, according to Raj Ramsar, all human beings spawn out of Africa. So the question is, did Europeans inherit Rh negative blood from Africans? Okay, here we go. The Rh negative blood type is relatively uncommon in Africa, with frequencies ranging from 0 to 15% depending on the population. It is more prevalent in populations of European and Middle Eastern descent. While the exact origin of Rh negative blood type is unknown, it is believed to have arisen through a mutation in human DNA potentially millions of years ago and spread through human migration and interbreeding. All right. The presence of Rh negative blood in Africa, though less frequent than elsewhere, is likely due to historical migrations and genetic mixing. So, Europeans and Middle Easterners, Arabs, Europeans, interbreeding with blacks is how Rh negative blood got introduced into Africa. So it did not come from Africans. Hold on. Well, let's get into that. And see, when I Googled, did Rh negative blood originate in Africa? Okay? Answer comes up, no. Rh negative blood did not originate in Africa. While all humans are believed to have originated in Africa and are predominantly Rh positive, the Rh negative blood type is thought to have evolved later, possibly outside of Africa. Specifically, Rh negative blood is most common in populations of European descent. So let's walk through this. Europeans descend from people who are not Rh negative. So how did they get Rh negative blood? How did they get blonde hair, blue eyes, stringy hair? Same with the Asian. And Rh negative blood is very rare in Asia. So the question is, if the original people are Africans, and they did not, and Rh negative blood factor did not originate in Africa, how do white people become Rh negative? Okay? And why? See, white people are Rh negative, but they're also 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Neanderthals are ape men, so it had to come through hybridization. All right? Hold on here. So we're talking about hybridization. Gene splicing, genetic manipulation. Okay, we're going to read right here. Can hybrid animal offspring have the same blood type as their parents? Yes. A hybrid animal offspring can inherit blood types that are the same as one or both of its parents. However, it's also possible for the offspring to have a different blood type due to the way genes are inherited. So if you take a monkey, cross it with a human, okay, the offspring can still have the blood type of the human, but it can also have the blood type of the monkey. Or it can have a completely different blood type altogether. Hence, Rh negative blood. And see, they always compare the rhesus factor. The rhesus factor is what? A monkey. And see, it's obvious that apes are humans crossed in with monkeys. And the monkeys, their fur comes from insects, beetles, crossed with human genetic. See, I'm just showing you where a lot of these different blood types come from. It comes from hybridization. All right? Hybridization. See, I typed in, can hybridization, you see what that says. Can hybridization change the blood type? Okay? And it tells you right here, can hybridization change blood type? Yes. Right there. Yes. In context of genetics and evolution, hybridization, the interbreeding of different species, populations of variants, can be a factor contributing to the emergence of new traits, including variants in blood groups. However, it's essential to distinguish this from typical inheritance patterns. Here's how hybridization relates to blood type changes. Genetic basis. Blood types are determined by antigen-specific markers on the surface of red blood cells, which are encoded by genes inherited from parents. Mutations and variations. The different blood types like A, B, AB, and O in the ABO system, or Rh positive and Rh negative in the Rh system, originally arose from mutations, which are changes in the DNA sequences. And so they're trying to say this mutation just magically happened. But I'm going to type in, can mutations occur due to hybridization? Yes, hybridization can induce mutations. See, they be trying to do these word plays to gaslight you, make you think that this shit just naturally happened through Mother Nature. But it also tells you right here, hybridization can induce mutations. And see that Wes Huff and Puff, Bible tart. See, Billy Carson would have just brought these facts up right here. He would have destroyed Wes Huff and Puff. Wes Huff and Puff, doing all that huff and puff. He's just a huff and puff Bible tart. But hybridization is how mutations occur. You can also do it through hybridization. And see, when you press people like Wes Huff, hold on there. See, when you press people like Wes Huff and have him explain this. Do you think these guys are walking on all fours because they're hybrids? They're Middle Easterner. Do you think that monkey gene that's crossed in with these people here might be the source of Rh negative blood? Do you think that's a possibility? See, these guys walk around like chimpanzees. Why? Because they were crossed with a chimpanzee. And when you look at a chimpanzee, the chimpanzee is obviously got human DNA. Because it doesn't have a tail like a monkey, but it looks like a monkey. But it can walk on all fours. I mean, it walks on all fours, but it also walks standing straight up like a human. So do you think there was some hybridization between the monkey and the human? And the whole Rh rhesus factor They compare it to this monkey here. Now, why are they comparing the rhesus factor to a monkey? And why does this monkey have similar, what they call antigens as humans? Do you think this monkey might have been genetically engineered or hybridized from human DNA? It's just like a dog. See, dogs and wolves behave completely different. Okay? But a dog spawns from a wolf. Hold on. See, it tells you, yes, modern domestic dogs are believed to have descended from ancient wolves. While the exact timeline and specific wolf populations involved are still being researched, it's generally accepted that dogs evolved from wolves through a process of domestication, likely beginning at least 15,000 years ago. That's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you that a little chihuahua was domesticated. You know, they took a dog, they took a chihuahua. A chihuahua is a domesticated wolf. A poodle is a domesticated wolf. This has nothing to do with hybridization. This has nothing to do with genetic engineering. And this is what they'll gaslight you on. But let's get into the genetic studies on that. Let's see what these gaslighters have to say. Okay, say based on provided research, do dogs have human DNA? It's a misconception to say that dogs have human DNA in the sense of possessing human genes or being a hybrid species. However, humans and dogs share a surprising degree of DNA similarity due to shared evolutionary history. It's called hybridization, motherfucker. But let's get into that. Here's an article, tells you right here. Did you know dogs have human DNA? Okay? And before you fools go over, come up here and start writing shit off, let's jump to this. Let's jump back to this video here. Right here. Now, do you think this Caucasian man here, wagging his tail, do you think he might have been inheriting the genes because he's hybridized? Okay, let's walk through this. He's wagging the tail, but he's also 2 to 5% Neanderthal, and chances are he has Rh negative blood. Do you think this might be a result, that Rh negative blood might be a result of hybridization? Considering the fact that this man right here is wagging his tail. Do you think it's possible that this man might be hybridized with like a dog? Which explains why a poodle, a chihuahua descends from a wolf? Because those animals were cross or multi-species animals mixed in with human genetic. Okay, let's see what the science has to say on this. Right here, Noster Warrior. Did you know dogs have human DNA? Let's get into that. Okay, recent findings by DNA scientists prove that dogs have human DNA. The science is out that we humans and dogs have exchanged bodily fluids or DNA, thus causing our genetic makeup over the millennia to become very similar to one another, which might explain why that Caucasian man, whose chances are his Rh negative, is wagging his tail and is part Neanderthal. Mr. Wes Huff and Puff. Mr. Wes Huff and Puff. The Bible is true. See, Adam and Eve goes back 6,000 years, and modern Europeans popped up in Europe 6,500 years ago. Do you think that's a coincidence, Mr. Wes Huff and Puff? And Mr. Wes Huff and Puff, why are you 2 to 5% Neanderthal, Mr. Wes Huff? See, these are the things Billy Carson should have been pointing out. And if he would have just simply pointed that out, he would dismantle people like Wes Huff. See? Caucasians, Jews, are God's chosen people, man. Okay, and this God is not God of the universe. This God is a fucking psychopath. He's Frankenstein. He's a fucking Nazi. God of the Old Testament is a fucking Nazi. He's a fucking reptilian. All right, let's get into, as a matter of fact, top 10 diseases that affect us humans also are the top 10 diseases amongst purebred dogs, including cancer, epilepsy, heart disease, allergy, retinal disease, and cataract. So we got that much in common with a damn dog. Do you think that's the case because the dog has human DNA? It's hybridized? Which, you know, how do you get this dog from a wolf? How do you get a poodle from a wolf? How do you get a chihuahua from a wolf? Okay, let's get into that, man. It tells you right here, scientists have completed a rough sketch of the canine genome. The results may explain why dogs are a human's best friend. Their genes are similar. Dogs suffer from more than 350 genetic disorders, many of which resemble human conditions, said Ewan Kirkness, a molecular biologist at the Institute for Genomic Research in Rockville, Maryland, who led the research. The genes responsible for these are probably constant to humans and dogs. The sequencing indicates that dog and human genomes are more similar to each other than either is to the mouse, though it appears the dog lineage diverged first from the common ancestor. It's a subspecies of the gray wolf, Canis lupus, a member of the Canidae family of the mammalian order carnivore. Term domestic dog is generally used for both domesticated and feral varieties. The dog may have been the first animal to be domesticated, and has domesticated means hybridized, but anyway. And so they show right here a humanized dog right there in Kemet, because that's what they were doing, genetically altering human DNA using light codes, using the biotron. But anyway, we're going to break into this and see right here. In 2005, scientists had conducted a genetic study on 29 dogs by testing their DNA. What they found was that all samples from the 29 dog specimens contained human DNA, often at levels exceeding the amount of authentic ancient dog DNA. Okay, this study is incredible because they found these dogs to be more human than wolf. Let me see. Do you think this guy right here might be more wolf than human? Hold on, man. Let's get back into this. You think this guy might be more wolf than human, or is he more human than wolf? Okay, let's break this down, man. Okay, here's the genetic study on the 29 dogs. Here it is, this National Library of Medicine. Extensive human DNA contamination and extracts from ancient dog bones and teeth. Okay, hold on, man. Let's get into here. Ancient DNA sequences, especially those of human origin, are notoriously difficult to analyze due to molecular damage and exogenous DNA contamination, or because of hybridization. But anyway, relatively few systematic studies have focused on this problem. Here we investigate the extent and origin of human DNA contamination, and most frequent. See, they try to write this off as contamination. But see, they tested 29 dogs, and all 29 dogs tested for human DNA, and the only explanation they got for this shit happening is human contamination. Even though you got a Great Pyramid right there, and they can't figure out how the hell that was built. Do you think the people that built the Great Pyramid are advanced scientists? Anyway, these advanced scientists, they created mankind. They created Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden 6,000 years ago. Do you think these scientists have advanced technology of life extension technology and things of that sort? Let's get into this, man. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Human DNA contamination, the most frequent used. I'm right here. Let me see if I can highlight that. It ain't gonna let me highlight it. DNA contamination. Okay, we'll go to that. Of human DNA contamination. Yeah, there it goes. DNA contamination. And the most frequent use sources of aDNA studies, that is bones and teeth, from museum collections to distinguish contaminant DNA from authentic DNA. We extracted DNA from dog, Canis familiar specimens. We monitored the presence of 148 human-specific, 152 BP dog-specific mitochondrial DNA, fragment DNA extracts, as well as negative controls. The total number of human and dog template molecules were quantified using real-time polymerase chain reactions, and the sequence were characterized by Akah cloning and sequencing. Although standard, here you go, right here. Hold on, let's get that in there. Although standard precautions to avoid contamination were taken, we found that all samples from the 29 dog specimens contained human DNA, often at levels exceeding the amount of authentic ancient dog DNA. The level of contaminating human DNA was also significantly higher in the dog extracts than in the negative controls. An experimental setup indicated that was not the cause by the carrier effect. Okay? In other words, contamination this human DNA was found in the dog at higher levels than the ancient dog DNA. So that dog is more human than wolf. Okay? Right there. Let's get into that, man. Right there. We found that all samples from the 29 dog specimens contain human DNA, often at levels exceeding the amount of authentic ancient dog DNA. And this explains why you have a poodle, a chihuahua, a pit bull, as opposed to a wolf. It's called hybridization. And this explains the origins of Rh negative blood. And this explains why you see this motherfucker with a big old bald head, which is obviously a hybridized human, which also explains these elongated skulls. And these skulls' DNA tie back to Middle Easterners and Europeans. Okay? Hold on, elongated skulls, DNAs, kind of walk over that. See, tells you right here, DNA testing on elongated skulls, particularly those from Paracas, Peru, has revealed that they are indeed human, despite initial suggestions of alien origins. While some early analysis reported unique mitochondrial DNA, later more comprehensive tests showed the elongated skulls had typical human DNA profiles, often matching those in Europe and in the Middle East. DNA profiles often matching those in Europe and the Middle East. And this is all obviously some octopus headed skull, and octopus are blue blood. Let's go octopus blue blood. Octopus blood is blue. Right there. See that big old octopus head? And this right here tells you that big octopus head right there is the ancestor of the royal blue bloods. Right there, as it tells you right here, royal blue bloods. Okay, DNA often matching those in Europe and in the Middle East. So, you know, I can conclude that this motherfucker is the ancestor of the blue bloods. Rh negative. The origins of Rh negative blood. They humanized this damn thing. And Yahweh, God of the Bible, made this motherfucker your master. And this explains where the Jews come from and why Jews are part Neanderthal. And they descend from African people who have no Neanderthal DNA. Let's walk over that. See, I typed in, did Neanderthal DNA originate in Africa? Okay, no. Right there. No, Neanderthal DNA did not originate in Africa. Neanderthals evolved outside of Africa, specifically in Europe and Asia, from populations that had previously migrated out of Africa. Modern human Homo sapiens evolved in Africa and then migrated out of Africa, encountering and interbreeding with Neanderthals, which is a bunch of bullshit, which I debunked. Because back to what I said before, if an African left Africa, made with a Neanderthal, the offspring will be 50% African, 50% Neanderthal. But they're telling you that black Africans left Africa, made it with Neanderthals, and produced blonde-haired, stringy-haired, blue-eyed white people that are 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Not 50% Neanderthal, but 2 to 5% Neanderthal. See, that tells you there was hybridization and backcrossing. Okay? Let's type in, what is backcrossing? Let's get into that. What is backcrossing? Backcrossing is a breeding technique used to transfer a specific desirable trait from one organism, the donor parent, to another, the recurrent parent, while minimizing the introduction of other unwanted genes from the donor parent. So in order to get rid of the tail, in order to get rid of those animal traits that they use when they cross human genetic with animals, they just take the hybrid human, the half ape, half human, and kept breeding it back with 100% human. Breed it back with 100% human. Breed it back with 100% human. Until the until the animal features get bred out. They just take, see, the way this works is you take a half human, half monkey. It's 50% human, 50% monkey. Breed it back with the human. Okay, the offspring is going to be 75% human, 25% monkey. You take that 75% human, 25% monkey hybrid human, made it back with 100% human. Okay, that offspring is going to be like 82% human, 18% monkey. You take that 82% human, 18% monkey, breed it back with a human. Okay, that offspring is going to be like 90% human, 10% monkey. You take that 90% human, 10% monkey human hybrid, breed it back with 100% human, and the offspring is going to be something like 95% human, 5% monkey. Hence, that explains how Europeans, East Asians, Aboriginals, East Indians, people from India, Native American Indians are 2 to 5% Neanderthal. It's called backcrossing. Got that, Mr. Wes Huff and Puff? The Bible is real, Mr. Wes? Jesus actually was real, even though letter J didn't come into the alphabet? The Bible is bullshit, man. You see, Billy Carson, this is what you should have did to take down Wes Huff, man. Okay? See that, Billy Carson? See, I'm telling you how to beat Wes Huff, this clown right here. This goofy looking motherfucker who's 2 to 5% Neanderthal. That's all you had to point out, Billy Carson. All you had to do is ask Wes Huff. Wes Huff, according to genetic studies, you are 2 to 5% Neanderthal. Now, if your Bible is truth, then how did you become 2 to 5% Neanderthal? And what does the Bible have to say about Neanderthal existing, Neanderthal DNA? And how did that Neanderthal DNA end up in your genetic profile, Mr. Wes Huff? How did Adam and Eve pass down Neanderthal traits to you, Mr. Wes Huff? Because according to genetic studies, Mr. Wes Huff, everybody on the planet comes from a sub-Saharan black African, and this sub-Saharan black African does not have Rh negative traits, nor does this sub-Saharan black African woman have Neanderthal DNA. So the question is, how did you get Neanderthal DNA in your genome? And don't give me this crap that black Africans left out of Africa, made it with Neanderthals, because the offspring would be half black, half Neanderthal. Not a black African mating with a Neanderthal, producing white people like you, who are only 2 to 5% Neanderthal. See, a black African, see, according to y'all stupidity, a black African leaves Africa, mates with a Neanderthal, and the offspring look like you, Mr. Wes Huff, at only 2 to 5% Neanderthal, but 98% human. Now explain how that happened. Explain the mathematics on that, Mr. Wes Huff. And see, right there, Billy Carson. Right there, your goofy ass would have shut his ass down, man. Simple as that. Because I'm tired of the gaslighting. I'm tired of the fucking lies. And I'm tired of people coming out here making people look like they fucking crazy. And the fact of the matter is, Yahweh's a fucking reptilian Nazi, control freak, and they try to make women like this crazy when she talks about the harvesting of eggs, that they're harvesting humans, and they steal women's eggs to make babies for human sacrifice, adrenochrome, blood drinking, sex rituals, and all that kind of shit. Because this is what's been going on for thousands of years. They've been hybridizing the human genome for thousands of years. This is what these guys would do. They come down here, abduct a black woman, take her eggs, and create these hybrid humans. And then use these hybrid humans to enslave the black race, which is what you see going on today. Got that, Billy Carson? Got that, Wes Huff? Yahweh, God of the Old Testament, enslaved us. It was us, the black man, black woman, that went to war with Yahweh. We're the ones that built the Tower of Babel, led by Marduk, son of Enki, to take down Yahweh. We're the ones that went to war with Yahweh, God of the Old Testament, because God of the Old Testament is your fucking enemy, not your fucking friend, man. And we're at war right now because it's this Yahweh, God of the Old Testament, that's trying to spark all World War III. He got his hybrids in government positions to rule over your ass. And, you know, obviously, we had got Donald Trump. We had got his ass because he was doing a lot of good things until this Epstein shit he started coming out talking about he's going to release that Epstein shit. And then all of a sudden, you know, we see Donald Trump who got swollen feet, hands morphing into looking like a fucking lizard, sitting up here talking about, oh, the Epstein file doesn't exist. See? Telling you all that shit. And then you got this woman right here telling you right here, hold on.
Ever. You know, I obviously don't do drugs, but, you know, from the times when I slipped up and did them as a, you know, young person being
Let's take that back, man.
Stupid. But I wasn't, I don't really know how that works, but, you know, a friend of mine said that with anesthetic, you can have weird sort of like we spoke about, and you know, it's a very difficult thing to explain because, you know, a lot of people like wouldn't understand it, but it happened. You know, he turned into something in front of my eyes, and you know, the people question it and say, was I maybe drugged or something? I mean, I don't know, but the thing is, I do know that I've like experimented with drugs years later, and I never ever saw anyone turn into anything ever. You know, I obviously don't do drugs, but, you know, from the times when I slipped up and did them as a, you know, young person being stupid. But I wasn't doing any drugs there. We weren't allowed to do drugs. We weren't allowed, you know, I mean, I'd never touched drugs. I'd actually never done a drug when I saw that. You know, I'd maybe smoked a joint. Well, I definitely had.
She's up here talking about Epstein changing into a reptilian, and see, that gets into your Bible, Mr. Wes Huff. Mr. Wes Huff, the Bible. Who was the snake in the garden? Snake is a reptile, Mr. Wes Huff. Do you think they're talking about a fucking reptilian? A reptile in the Garden of Eden? That led Adam and Eve astray? Led them to being kicked out the garden? Do you think that might be symbolizing that these human beings that were created in the Garden of Eve were crossed with reptilian, humanoid genetic, which allows a reptilian demon to house themselves in their gene pool and shapeshift? But see, that might sound a little crazy, but we already got the biotron where they can mute species, cross a duck with a hen. The hen is born with a beak like a duck and webbed feet, but also still keep hen features. Do you think they can extend that technology out to where they can have a dormant gene that can morph and mutate inside the human, causing it to shapeshift, which means shapeshifting can be a reality? But this same woman right here, hold on. Put this on pause. Okay, this same woman broke down the hybridization program, how they're stealing eggs and hybridizing humans and making their own babies for ritual sacrifice, adrenochrome. They're harvesting humans, and they do this shit in their underground labs, man. See, simple as that. So when you come out and try to say that this woman's fucking crazy, when you look at the facts, look at the evidence, look at the history, okay, there's a whole lot of validity to what this woman's talking about. Who hybridized humanity? Who is behind that? Who genetically engineered the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Homo erectus? And how did that genome get into the human DNA? Who did that? It's called Yahweh, God of the Old Testament. In the Sumerian text, his name is Enlil, who is half brothers to Enki. And see, Enki is the human son to Anu, and Enlil is the Anunnaki son to Anu. Even though Enki was the firstborn, it was his human genes that put him. That's why he couldn't inherit the throne of these fucking reptilians. They didn't want a human being in charge of their fucking order. So they let Enlil be, even though he's the second-born son, he's the one that got to be the ruler of the Anunnaki, and he's the one to run your fucking Nazis, run your underground bases, has life extension technology, and still living to this very fucking day, and he's the one orchestrating World War III. Using Netanyahu, who is a Jew, who is God's chosen people, to spark it. Using Vladimir Putin, all working for the World Economic Forum to start World War III so they can exterminate the population. Why? Because they got a replacement population underground ready to replace you. They got robots coming in with artificial intelligence ready to replace you. They got a microchip population of humans, hybridized humans, ready to be ready after they kill your ass off. They're ready to bring a whole population of hybridized humans to take over the earth. After they kill you off, after they exterminate you with COVID vaccines and viruses and wars, they want to reduce the world population, put a microchip on your ass so you can be more controllable. See who's behind that? Okay, it's called those fucking reptilians. It's called Yahweh, and that's exactly what the Elohim Anunnaki are. Fucking reptilians. As Credo Muwa said, they came in bold ships and they landed and said, you know, we will make you gods if you worship us. That's what they told the humans, which tells you humans were here first, and those humans were black people. And they used black people's genetics to create all the other races on the planet Earth, man. And this is facts, man. Mr. Wes Huff and Puff, Mr. Wes Huff. Say hello to your boy Akah that said, God bless all you gods and goddesses. May Amun Ra be with you. May the spirit of the universe be with you. God bless. Peace.